So welcome everybody to Community Matters meeting for today, Wednesday, 26th of February, and it is just coming up to 7:30. So our just quick housekeeping checks that we need to do. There's no fire alarms planned, so if you do hear the alarm, it will be a actual evacuation, which we need to do, which you'll need to do via the fire exit. So wherever we are sat at the moment, our nearest is behind you, and we go over the road, and our muster point is over in the car park. Okay, so we've got one apologies for absence for Martin. Everybody else is all with us, so we're all good. And just our declarations of interest, always around.
None that I'm aware of.
None that I'm aware of. None that I'm aware of.
None that I'm aware of.
None I'm aware of.
None that I'm aware of. And none for me either, Steve. So we are all done. Okay, just a quick update then in terms of what we want to run through. David, I know you've got a few bits and pieces to run through as well. So one of the first things, just to sort of re-mention, we've got our residents, our monthly residents drop-in, which is on Friday this week, 3 till 5. We've got now our Fridays, last Friday of the month's now set for the rest of the year as well, just to extend that. So that'll be going out via the socials and on the website as well, just to let everybody know we've got some consistency, and hopefully we'll continue seeing our residents popping in on Friday and being able to speak to us all. David, I know there's a few things that you wanted to run through as well.
Thanks, Emma. The only biggest thing was following last meeting where we discussed a new tree in the children's play area down at the Lake Grounds Play Park, and the suggestion that we request an apple tree be put in place of the tree that had been taken down. I got in touch with North Somerset about that. North Somerset didn't have any apple trees to offer us. They didn't want to put an apple tree there, so they offered us another tree, which turned out to be a foreign tree. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was an Iranian something or other tree. And I said, actually, Sharon's steer was the area's already quite crowded with trees. Leave it to us. We'll sort it out in the fullness of time. So we haven't got a new tree courtesy of North Somerset, but they weren't going to give us one that was either native or safe in a children's play area. The only other updates I had was just a reminder about the discussion at 4 o'clock on Tuesday the 4th, which I think Paul is leading around Weston Bigwood.
There's a webinar at 7 o'clock on Tuesday the 4th. Yeah, it's not 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. Chris Sperring is behind me. He's also there. So it's basically an open session for residents to ask questions about the additional local sites which North Somerset have put up, specifically the land around Weston Bigwood. All welcome. Thank you.
And Paul, while you're there, I think at the last meeting we talked about locations for the food bank, and I know you and Nikki were visiting a few places.
We have, but there's no decision yet. They're still looking, basically. So, but thank you.
So I think when I spoke to Nikki earlier today, it was just a case of keep publicising the need for the space. There's a few things which hopefully might be looking positive for them as well. So yeah, keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, if anybody else comes up with any bright ideas, please pass them over and we can pass them on. Okay, item number 5 is public participation. So it's just an open floor for any of the points on the agenda if anybody wants to speak. I know we've got some points to cover further on in the agenda as well. And I think everybody that's with us is here to speak about specific agenda points, so we can invite you forward when we get to those points on the agenda as well. So is there anybody online that wants?
I'm online.
Anything to bring up, Mike, or nothing?
Not at this moment, no.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. That's it then. So we'll go to agenda item, which probably should be. Oh, Sorry. Do you want to come forward to the mic? It's okay, because only via the recording, then sometimes people can't pick you up.
Which aren't. There we go. Hi, Jonathan Mock here. Just to say, apple trees. Tesco's are doing fruit trees at the moment, 2 for £12 or £6 each. I've just planted an orchard in my garden. So if anybody if these people need an apple tree, how many do they need? 1 or 2?
I didn't explore the reasons for them not being offered, but I sensed that maybe it was because the playground is close to the cafe and they might be concerned about rats from the fallen apples in that area.
Okay. If they want an apple tree, I'm quite happy to buy them one. That's that simple. That was it.
Let North Somerset know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Okay, so agenda item number 7, which might be number 6, but we skipped one. We'll go with the numbers as they are printed. So the minutes of the previous meeting. Now, I wasn't able to attend in January. We've got the minutes, which David, you've ratified as well, and we've got other councillors present who were in attendance of the meeting. Do you want to propose, and if we can get a seconder of anybody that was in attendance? Yeah, Bob? No, yeah, I know there were a couple of us missing at that point. So I think we can all vote in favour of the ratification, yeah? So we are all good, and we'll do a squiggle on those and hand them back. Yeah, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 8 then. So the Wyndham Way public toilets. So we've got a report that was part of the agenda pack. I will read this out, not necessarily verbatim, but I will run through it because it's probably wise so everybody kind of gets completely up to speed in terms of where we are with it. So the toilet block itself is owned by it's sat in the car park, which is owned by North Somerset Council. The toilets were proposed to be closed in 2013, and then the town council themselves took a long-term 99-year lease over on the toilet block. It was a one-off cost of £50,000 all the way back then. The toilets themselves needed extensive sort of renovation and everything at the time, and that was a further cost that was spent back in 2013 as well. Since then, we know that we've got several issues with antisocial behaviour and vandalism, and to be honest, they've been closed more than they've been open, certainly in the last 12 months. The number of damages and incidents of damage. So we've got 12 incidents of damage since 2022. And obviously because of our necessity in terms of the contracts that we've got for cleaning, some of these costs are rolling. We've got a current cost that we are sort of having to sign off every month for the maintenance, which is not being conducted at the moment, obviously because the toilets are closed. So yeah, what we're looking at being able to do is try and understand if there's anything that we can actually do with the toilet block, if there's any initiatives that we can, or we have been looking at any initiatives which will reduce the antisocial behaviour. But as you said, at the moment, unfortunately, we're still suffering, in terms of a lack of facilities there, being able to provide them, but also the additional costs for both the maintenance and the vandalism that we're undertaking. So the damage, the most current damage that we've got is £600, and that would be to rectify what we've got, but the actual overall damage across the course of the last couple of years has unfortunately rolled into thousands. So let me run back down onto the bottom of the thing. Sorry, just run up. For this particular sort of section, we're also looking at the possibility of actually looking at what we can do as a council to engage with sort of businesses and facilities that we've got to actually look at installing like a toilet scheme. We at the moment haven't moved forward with it because we're looking at different councils and what they're doing and different initiatives. I know Nikki, Nikki in the council has been looking at Frome Town Council and Bristol Town Council. There's another scheme in Bedminster that's also running. So we're gaining all of the information and the experience really I've got or that they've got of being able to run these schemes and sort of alongside that weighing up what we can actually do with the actual toilet block and whether it's worth us being able to actually invest anything into it to repair and replace or indeed look to stop what we're doing with the toilets themselves, be it mothball and look to introduce a toilet scheme throughout the town as well. We need to put all of these things together before we actually go out to the town and see what availability or what incentives people are looking for to be able to join it. But until we kind of get a little bit more sort of meat in the bones, so to say, we can then sort of go out to the businesses and organisations to find out whether it is something that they would be interested in supporting us. So there's no recommendation, Steve, is there in the let me go back down to the bottom. Yeah, if you don't mind, it's not on the bottom of the...
Yeah, the recommendations before the committee are that the current Healthmatic contract be terminated. Just let lapse at the end of March. That building surveys are undertaken on the toilets. That a proposal is developed for consideration by this committee on the introduction of a community toilet scheme. And that you get a report back from your officers on the progress of that scheme at future meetings.
So, as I said, just to... Oh, sorry, Paul, yeah, if you want to.
I just add a couple of things for people who don't know. A community toilet scheme means us probably finding 6 or 8 hospitality outfits within the town who might be prepared to open their publics formally to the public, and then there would be publicity and a map to show people where they are. So actually it could be a lot better than a public toilets because there'll be a number of facilities which will all be in the wall and won't be vandalised. So that's what a community toilet scheme is. And the other thing to say is that the reason for doing the surveys is because the building, looks a bit dilapidated. So if we were going to use it for another purpose, the first thing we need to understand is what is the state of the building and if it needs any investment before it can be used for anything else, just to explain what that's for. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thanks,
Paul. I think the schemes that we've been in touch with the other councils that are running, it's variable in terms of their success, but mostly positive. So that gives us, something good to be able to sort of move forward from. Did Mike want to speak?
Yes. I wondered whether there was a possibility, Emma, that we as councillors could perhaps make a visit there sometime, because I understand that there are other spaces within the building which could be looked at in terms of other uses as well.
The toilet, the Wyndham Way toilet block itself. Yeah, indeed. I know a visit was undertaken just a couple of weeks ago, actually, because we were looking at it for alternate uses and what was possible. But yes, we can organise another one of those, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so the version I've got hasn't got the recommendation on. So. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Bob.
There's a few things I'd like to ask is how long the 99-year lease is left? What outside area does that involve as well? So in other words, is it just the building or is it the parking area in front of the toilets? Is it the side of the toilets? Is that part of the area that comes under the agreement? Obviously, we've discussed as councillors as looking for alternatives, possibly a small commercial property that can be rented out at a lower rate than obviously the high street. Storage obviously is another area that we could look into. And again, I think that's what we need to do is define what we can do with it, and then look from there onwards. Yeah,
I don't know if there's any particular covenants on the lease or whatever, but I mean, in terms of the duration, there's probably another 87 years or so to run on the lease itself. So there's quite a duration left. Janet?
Oh, yes. I thought that car park was owned by Aldi. I presume that the bit down the side was owned by North Somerset Council.
Yeah, Aldi owns the one to the left of the road as you come in, and the other one is partly under the lease for North Somerset, from Somerset Hall as well. So at the back of the Iceland car park
is North Somerset.
That area there.
But what about the area where Wyndham Way?
Yeah, that's what Bob raised. So we'll have to have a look at the actual lease.
What I'm saying is we need an understanding of what area under that agreement is.
I'll send you the land registry book, but basically the land, the toilets and the piece of tarmac around it is owned by North Somerset Council. Okay, and that is the area that we're concerned with. So, and obviously the building itself, and the town council leases it. So I'll send you the land registry, which has got all the details in it. Okay.
Thanks. Could you send it to me too, please?
Yep. I'll send it to everyone. Yeah.
Very David, go on.
Just a quick question. I know from previous council meetings where this has been discussed, it's a very emotive issue for some people who depend on the availability of toilets to sort of get out and feel confident about getting out, particularly the accessible toilet that's there, but I think that's out of action too. Do we have a sense of how long the timescale is going to be before we can distribute a map of toilet options for people?
Sort of without jumping straight to kind of solutions, the consideration that we've already thought is actually via our website to begin with. So that would be something very quick that we could do through some of the software that we've already got. More so, the work that we need to do is engagement with the businesses that we would, be speaking to, and finding out whether they are happy to be part of that scheme. There's obviously a lot of community spaces that we've got along the high street, like the hub and the library and places like that might be easier to be able to actually get on board. And then following that, the potential commercial properties that we might be able to engage with, some of the coffee shops and bars and other places that we've got along here, as well as spaces like maybe even the folk hall when it's open. But we can't obviously guarantee that there's always somebody going to be here either. So I think we should be able to mobilise something relatively quickly. The toilets haven't actually been open there for so many months now already. Anything that we can do is going to be an improvement on top of that, I think. Yeah. Okay, so I think in terms of where we are and a recommendation, I'm happy to propose that we go with all. Sorry, Roger.
I just wanted to ask a question, maybe make a point around this one. I mean, obviously the toilets have been closed for an awful long time. The only public toilet that services the high street area, and we are still paying for a contract until the 31st of March. Is there any possibility that we can get the disabled toilet back into service for the next month whilst we work out other options, as we're already paying for the contract anyway? It might make sense to try and do that. And I mean, it's a significant issue, isn't it, not having toilets in the high street? If we can do that without it costing too much money, I would certainly be in favour of that.
I don't know the 600 £700 of the damage that's there at the moment. I think that extends between both of the toilets, not just the one. But I think we'll have to check. But I guess if what we could probably add to the recommendation, if that is the amount to get it back open, if we'd be prepared to put it, if we'd be prepared to pay for that to get it back open. But then obviously it might be open for one day, it might be open for 1 month. Given the amount of vandalism that we've had, we've unfortunately got no guarantees on that. But I guess if the committee can be
running public toilets in this format just isn't working for us, is it? Just far too much damage, far too many idle hands, I think, doing things they shouldn't, and it's an easy target, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely in favour of a community toilet scheme rather than running the public toilets, because we just seem to be, dare I say it, flushing money down the drain at the moment.
Thank you, Richard. So I guess if we could be minded to add that to the recommendation, if everybody's happy with that, and given that it will be only the disabled toilet that is protected in some way by the radar key entry system, so it does give us some sort of a surety that hopefully that if people are not using those. If people who shouldn't have those keys are using those keys to gain entries. But if we could probably add that to the recommendations.
I thought that you could also use it if you put 20p in, so we could disable that, couldn't we?
But we wouldn't potentially need to open both of the areas. We could see what it is.
But you can get into the disabled one using 20p.
I don't know, Janet.
I've done that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'd have to disable the 20p thing just so that people could use the radar key.
Yeah. Good catch. Okay, that's fine. So we'll speak to Mike about that. Okay. So with the additional recommendation then, so I'll just run through them so we're absolutely all clear in terms of where we are. So So post-April, the Healthmatic contract is not renewed. The new condition surveys are undertaken on the buildings. The work starts on developing the community toilet scheme. We've already got nominees around the councillors for that, Steve, as well. The community services manager report back on the progress of the community toilet scheme in due course. And then the fifth recommendation is that we do what we need to re-enable the disabled toilet, removing the general access and leaving the radar key. So I can propose that. David will second. And we are all in favour. Fab. Item number 9 on the agenda is the Tea and Tech report. Let me just scroll down to that. Okay, and I would imagine that all of the councillors have got experience of the Tea and Tech, but in essence, just to give a bit of a highlight in terms of what the Tea and Tech sessions are. So they are held at the Folk Hall here every month. You'll find the schedule of when all of the Tea and Techs are on our website as well. It's a community inclusion project, so we've got lots of sort of social prescribers who are sort of divert their members towards the club as well. It's a very healthy. We've got the numbers off Nikki today, Steve, didn't we? So we've got in excess of 50 residents which attend, and they are supported between sort of 30 and 40 volunteers that we've got, and some of those volunteers actually were volunteers that we had during COVID as well. So a really good consistency in terms of the volunteers that are here and supporting. In essence, there's it's anything tech. It's help with sort of hardware and software and websites and everything in between. In essence, there's no the list of things that we've got here in sort of summary is no tech question is too basic. Everything's considered. It's where you can ask any questions in a completely safe space and get whatever support that you need to get your answers. So Amy and Nikki sort of Amy does all of the communication for it. Nikki actually sort of runs it. All of the sessions are free. There's a piggy bank that's passed around just to, money for donations for tea, coffee, biscuits and all of that kind of stuff. And then occasionally there's speakers which come that talk about specific things. So we had somebody recently talking about the NHS app, and, just getting people used to different sort of items of technology, really, I guess. So what we are looking to ask of the committee is in essence to continue to support the free of charge use of the space for the continuation of tea and tech of the folk hall for space which was otherwise in essence be used now to rent out. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions, Bob?
Yeah, just obviously looking at the paperwork for this one. A video was created 2 years ago that's been put on YouTube for the tea and tech. Could we ask Amy to repost that, because it's I don't know if anyone's actually seen it. It's an excellent video, and I think personally myself, I'm more than happy to post it around the local social media pages the day before the tea and tech happens, so that but I was just wondering if you could ask Amy to post it on the local council site. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. As I said, it's and again speaking to Nikki, she said that the prescribing really, I guess, of it through all of the through the surgeries and through the youth centre and other places is really good, and there's a real good connection now, I guess, with the people that are attending and finding that support as well. So I think it's wholly worth our investment in that sense in terms of what we can do to support that continuing. So I don't know if anybody else wants to cover anything or whether we could move straight to the recommendation. Yeah. So the recommendation is the tea and tech sessions are to be continued at the folk hall, and that the higher charges of the space that we're using are to be waived.
I'm proposing.
Excellent. Thank you, Janet. Fantastic. And all of those in favour? That's a unanimous. Excellent. Okay, so next agenda item that we've got is, and we've got Miss Romuald Portishead with us as well, is the Swift boxes. So you might have seen on social media that there has been a sort of a fundraising effort to get Swift boxes into the town, and it's about sort of the upkeep in the population, really, I guess, in terms of where they want to nest and all of that kind of stuff. So the crowdfunding was £500, and that's been breached now, hasn't it, in terms of everything? So that's great. So what we're looking to do in terms of recommendation for this point that we want to cover is actually we're looking more generally for spaces as to where these Swift boxes can come forward. But what we're looking to do here is to see if we can actually get something on the folk hall as well. But yeah, fire away.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is for Swifts. So to put you in the picture, we're thought to be missing around about 500,000 to 1 million Swifts in this country over a period of 40 years. So they come from, or they all originate south of the Sahara. So they're making a journey up, and their journey is really quite interesting because they're one of the last of the summer visitors to actually arrive. So they're due to arrive in Portishead end of April, beginning of May, and it's that strict. And it's virtually to the date of July the 31st, where they'll all gather up and go. So they're a really good indicator species for a non-polluted environment. They're predominantly feeding in the air. They spend most of their time in the air, and indeed when they go to sleep, if they're not breeding, they'll actually go up as high as they can and they'll sleep up in the sky. They're an incredible bird, about the size of a blackbird, but with very narrow, almost like a bow and arrow wing configuration. They're incredibly fast, and they're associated with probably more familiar birds like swallows and martins, but they're actually not strictly related to them. Now, so what we want to do is a number of villages, parishes, cities in this country are already doing Swift projects. So we want to join the mould. And one of the easiest things that we can do is put up Swift boxes. The reason why we've got to put up Swift boxes is quite interesting. Now, for the past couple of years, the number around the high street has been around about a dozen, and it's holding pretty much steady at that. So in the evenings, I go and watch where they're going, and they're going in the old buildings that so far haven't had their roofs done. So they're finding a way in there. And so what we want to do is with these Swift boxes, it means that it doesn't matter if the roof is going to be done or not. They'll actually go on the outside of the building. And we would like to start that project at the folk hall. So the folk hall becomes the hub. We would like to put up 2 boxes on the folk hall. And one of those boxes, I reckon we should put a camera in. And that camera should feed down through to here so that the community can come and see it. And also it should double up as being able to be viewed by all the local schools. We'll back the project up by going to all the local schools, telling them all about Swifts, making this great connection to Africa. One of the other big reasons for decline, I've got to say, is probably one of the reasons why so many birds failed to actually rear any chicks last year. So we're talking about here something that some people have described as the insect apocalypse, which is upon us. And a number of people have said already when I mentioned this on Radio Bristol, oh, good, so we're not going to get bitten, stung, or be irritated by insects. No, it's deadly serious. It's absolutely deadly serious. And I use the analogy of a wonderful chap who came to see me. He actually runs a massive wildlife reserve, which is half the size of Wales in India. And we walked up Western Bigwood and we found the carcass of a roe deer. It was midsummer. And he looked at the eyes and he said, do you agree with me that this is over a week old? And I said, yeah, definitely. And he said, this is astonishing. Where are the insects breaking this material down? This is really dangerous. So the insects are incredibly important. The swifts are the indicators that things are going wrong, but also now a number of other birds have joined them in that. So our proposal is to have it in different phases. Now, we're really lucky, and Paul said that once we put this out, a number of people actually came forward and said, well, we want a part of this project as well. And what we'd already said was that the high street would be phase 1. So we get the boxes up in the high street first with the money that we've raised. And phase 2 would then look at further away. And already, I'm going to hand over to Jonathan in a second, but already Jonathan's had contact with people in Slade Road. So the old buildings in Slade Road, they want in on the project. And what I think would be brilliant is to get back to a point when I was growing up in Portishead as a very young lad, when I used to watch big flocks of swifts, not just in the high street, but also gathering around St. Peter's Church. So we've asked the church to get involved with this, and they would be delighted to be involved. And further away, going up through to West Hill, some of the old buildings up on West Hill that always had swifts every year that now don't get them. And even where I live down in Northwestern, there used to be quite a completely gone. So there's things that we can do to put this right. I believe this comes under the banner of the last government and this government's whim of so-called nature recovery. And I think this is something that we can do very effective. What do we want from you? No. How about that? How about that? We don't want money. What we want you to do is, A, give us permission to get the boxes up on this building to kick everything off. But then I think the other thing that we really need from you is that a number of the old buildings along the high street would probably be owned by, and Paul's going to probably correct me here, but by Bristol City Council. We need permission to get these boxes up. We'll also need help to make sure that they're put up correctly. Now, I'm not sure if I'm jumping the gun here, Paul, but I think Paul wants us to get the folk hall done as quickly as possible whilst you've still got the builders in. Why? Because he can use the builders to put them up, and they'll be health and safety correct. So, and what we'll do, in what Paul said, is put an appeal out to builders as well to do the same thing through the high street to help us with the project. I led the local Cubs the other day on a walk round Portishead looking at wildlife, and they want in on the project. And now the thing that they can do for us is that in order to get these swifts into the boxes, what we have to do, wait for it, is play recordings of swifts underneath the boxes. Why? Because then the swifts that haven't mated or have recently mated and have not got a traditional nest to come back to, they will be attracted by swift calls and come in and have a look. And the idea is once they have a look and they've gone in the box, that's it. Then we can pull out the way. And the Cubs are going to help with that. So during one of their sessions during May, once we've got everything agreed and settled, they'll go up through the high street, go underneath the boxes and start playing these recordings. So we hope to get involvement on this in this project from right throughout the community. And this also then can lead to other major wildlife issues which we've got. I'm going to hand over to Jonathan now. He's going to give you the rundown on the wonderful work he's done on Wild Portishead Facebook page. Go, Jonathan.
Chris has said everything that I needed to be said, quite frankly. What have we been? Well, we set up the crowdfunding. We managed to raise everything we needed, plus an extra £5 in just over a week, which was brilliant. So the public are right behind us. As Chris says, I think that it would be great if we can set it up here first of all, so that it can become like the flagship of the entire project. Certainly, what we'd like to do long term is bring the community in to make more, to have more bird boxes around the town, not just for swifts but for other species as well. Which is why we'd like to work with the bodgers on this. And Chris is always very keen to emphasise this, that with any of these projects, they have to be ground up. There's no point in trying to impose them. And this is, I hate to do a bit of North Somerset Council bashing here, but this is where their rewilding programme went wrong, because they were trying to impose it from the top down. Nature works from the ground up, and you have to mirror how nature works. So yes, we'd like to long term. We're kickstarting the swift boxes because the swifts do need our help. But I think long term we would like to have a program of nest boxes around the town to broaden the species out a bit more. But as Chris says, it also brings all the local schools in so that we can turn it into a learning experience. And I think this is the important thing, is that the more the community is invested in these kind of initiatives, then the more they're likely to succeed and the more they're likely to be protected as well. So that's all I've got to say. So thank you for your time.
I was going to ask how the hell you knew that Swifts would actually going to be using those boxes, but Chris very kindly answered that. I am fascinated by that. Where do you have what vehicle do you use for the recordings of the Swifts? Do people use their phones?
Yeah, it'll be phones these days.
Yep.
I have got an old cassette tape recorder, but yeah, it'll be phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Obviously, as you probably know, that bird boxes and bird feeders with cameras are now becoming very, very popular. And the prices are quite extortionate. So it just goes to show what, exactly. It just goes to show what you can do, even with a simple home security camera, that anyone can log into that address, can be used, and the cost is quite minimal. So I think you guys have done an amazing job, and I think this can go a lot further than what we think. No, I'm more than happy to contribute.
Mariam, and Mariam, and then Mike.
Just a question to, I guess, whichever gentleman wants to answer, but it's all great bringing the swifts here and introducing them to Portishead Wide. How are they going to sustain themselves here if there isn't an insect population to feed off of? Is that another thing that maybe we could work on or help and support with?
Put to your laptop there. You to initial.
Is this a private meeting or can anyone join it?
Please.
All right. Okay. And that's you must read the book. It's called The Great Misconceptions of Rewilding, Myths and Mysticisms. I hear chapter 9 is very good, and it's all about how Wild Portishead was set up. And basically, as Jonathan's rightly said, it was started off as very much a ground up project. And what we had planned to do was very much create habitats for these insects. And they are the basis of everything. If we haven't got them, we've got nothing. And I'm sure you've all heard what the UN have said about the day the pollinators are finished. It gives us, I think it's about 2 years as a species left. So yes, they are incredibly important, and we can do something about it, but it has to be a community involvement right from the base level all the way up. Basically because, as I said in the book, what we don't want is the classic 3-year conservation project, which everybody participates in, and then after 3 years it's all forgotten. What we want is a project which basically goes intergenerational, so that when I'm gone, there's still people doing the project. So I think we can lift that population by managing things a little bit differently. But what that doesn't mean is, what the public don't like, total neglect. It means managing it a lot more sympathetically, which saves councils money, but at the same time, it's still managed and it still looks relatively tidy. That will lift the base insect populations overnight. We've got a situation at the moment that we've got small mining bees emerging at the end of February. And I witnessed this last weekend. We've also got at the same time district council out cutting the flowers that they are reliant on. So the things that normally people don't like, daisies, dandelions, lesser celandines, basically because the way we are now, we want everything to be green. We don't want any other colour apart from green. So what we need to do is change minds, and you change minds with time, and you give information. And that's the type of thing I do on my Facebook page all the time, is not just talk about things like dandelions, but also say what they used to be used for. The Victorians used every single part of that plant as food. Now, what we do is put weed killer on it to get rid of it. So you just need a different mindset, and that comes with time. But as we've seen with some of the areas which have been totally neglected, for a period of time, we get the insects back. But when it becomes totally neglected, then we lose it again. So it's that question of management, how we manage it. Sorry.
Chris, no, can you stay there? Mike's got a question, and I don't know whether it might be something that you need to answer. So, Mike?
Well, it might well be, yes. I mean, I was recently on a walkabout in Long Ashton, and there, one of the Bodgers, colleague of Jenny's, has made a number of Swift boxes, and they've been put on houses there. But they're very concentrated. They're just behind the high street in Long Ashton, and he lives only half a mile away, and he's never seen a Swift in his old property. So it's quite interesting how the Swifts have zoned in on just this small section of central Long Ashton. And I thoroughly applaud the proposal tonight, and I look forward to seeing them. And I hope you're right, Chris. You know, they home in on some of these new areas, which you're thinking that they could do so in due course. I understand that as birds, they mate for life, and I don't know what.
Not all the time, just once a year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's their lifespan?
It's a joke.
How long do they live?
They're very long-lived, actually. I mean, compared to the swallows and the martins, they can live for 20, 25 years.
Gosh.
So that's a long time for a bird of that size. Yeah. So your average swallow and martin, I mean, if they get to between 2 and 5, they're lucky. Very, very lucky indeed.
I asked him whether he was prepared to perhaps make a few boxes for us here in Portishead, and he said no, he's rather fed up making them, but I presume that they are available to be made or to buy.
I'm sure we can definitely do that for in gardens. I mean, we used to run actually in Portishead a box workshop where people used to come in and they used to make boxes, and then they used to pay a tenner and take a box home. So we used to do that. We can resurrect that. That's not a problem.
Good idea.
But if I can just add what Jonathan said, and we're very, very keen to, just backing up what Jonathan said, very keen to work with the Bodgers. But what I see long term is that we'll have boxes put up in Portishead for any bird, and those birds will be properly numbered. And I think, what I want is a scientific project at the end of the day, but something that the community can actually grab hold of and carry on with when we've gone, so to speak. So in that respect, I don't know if this is something that the council could do or we could do, but I think this should be community information, is that every box location and number is stored here. Is that possible? Or do we keep it? If it can be stored here, obviously it's easier for the public to access. And then every result from every box that's put up throughout all of the years that the boxes are there. And when a box gets old, we replace it. It's as simple as that. So I see this turning into a long-term citizen science community-based project, which is the reason why Wild Portishead set up in the first place.
Yep. David?
I was just going to say, fantastic idea. Fully support it. Not just because it's free. I think it's a great idea. And I guess we've done what we can, or we tried to do what we can to try and reduce pesticide use by North Somerset Council.
Yeah.
And we've kind of got as far as we can with that. I just was thinking, and I guess the overuse of pesticides and herbicides is one of the reasons our insect population is dwindling, as it is. It's one of the other reasons. So my question was, what do you know about local farming practice? Do you have contacts? Because I guess they're going to, if our local farmers are using herbicides and pesticides, insecticides on their plots of land, that's going to be a major source of.
They are. Yes. I mean, this is a subject which I actually chatted with Bob a few years ago, because there was a farmer very close to where Bob and I live, close to residence, whereby the wind was blowing, and that was blowing straight into people's gardens. And we're talking about industrial usage there. So I'm surprised we all haven't got 3 herds. Yes, it is an issue, but it's an issue that's being tackled nationally. And I think I think the French government were way ahead of the game, whereby they banned instantly the use of any pesticides in gardens because of the insect apocalypse that was there, and also then basically warned the farmers, you've got 4 years grace.
I'm just thinking a way into the local farming population might be by us, offering them some Swift boxes and just saying, these guys are going to help keep getting into this.
You're talking about the work that I do, but I use barn owl boxes. So yes, it works. It really does work. But we've come a long way because the allotment, Gertie Gale allotment, and this is again where we work closely with Town Council, stopped using chemicals. In order to back that up, the Town Council and Hawk and Owl Trust and Wild Portishead put up 2 tawny owl boxes in the cemetery to give them some natural pest control. It took 4 years, but last year those owls raised 2 young, and I've actually got photographs of them hunting the allotment. So it works, and if I've got another hour, I could talk to you about solving your rat problem, and solving the rat problem basically by understanding the fact that the problem is not a rat problem, it's a human problem, and I better stop there.
Yeah,
or else I could be talking for the next hour.
We'll probably need to organise some kind of like spin-off to actually run through everything. Jenny, if it's quick.
Technical question. How do you identify the birds? Do you ring them?
They can be run. I am a licensed ringer, so they can be run. But I think for at least the first couple of years, let's get them in boxes. Let's get them settled. And if any of the boxes are used, let's not expect miracles in year 1. But if any of the boxes are used, that is an indication that the population's expanding.
Yeah.
Because they've already got sites. So if they're using our boxes, it means they're going in buildings historically they would have used, which means the population is getting bigger.
Yeah. No, absolutely fascinating, and I think everybody's probably very well aware of the value of the community engagement in an initiative like this as well. So in terms of the recommendation, it's that 2 Swift boxes be installed at the folk hall. Obviously, while we've got the builders in too, that the council use its communication and marketing expertise to help promote this worthwhile project. With Bristol City, we'll take that as another action as well, and do what we need to. So we've got many a proposer. Take your pick, Steve. We've got many a seconder. Therefore, and can we take a vote? We're all in favour. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming and explaining. It is absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
Before Chris goes, can I just ask a question? I've had a bird box up in my garden for about 7 or 8 years, and it's never been used. Which direction should it be pointing in?
Perhaps this would bring me a relative time to do that.
Yes, there is. The direction should be away, any direction away from the southwesterly wet wind.
Face it to the northwest.
I'm moving it then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Let's move on while we can. Agenda item number 11, free flowers for Portishead. We've got a report here. Steve, I don't know if you want to quickly run through it.
Yes, I think this is an annual scheme run by Glendale, the North Somerset Council's principal grounds maintenance contractor. They make available flowers to councils. They're not perhaps the habitat-rich varieties perhaps we would like to see, but they are what I would call traditional bedding plants, so probably better than nothing. But so they are available. So we need to place our order by the 24th of March. They've got salvias, now without my glasses. They've got marigolds, ageratum, petunias and lobelia. available, and we can order if we want. If we can get them planted, we can go and collect them. We have to arrange to collect them ourselves. That's the only difficulty. So I don't know whether you've done that in the past or not, or whether you wish to do it.
No, but I could probably organise something that's
Yeah.
no
Or we could go and collect them and then flog them on eBay, perhaps to pay for a few more Swift boxes.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
Presumably this is something that we can do for Portishead in Bloom.
yeah. Well, I'm a volunteer there, so I can push this back in because there will be definitely and actually some of the orders from there go through that Glendale view as well. So we'll make sure everybody's looped in. Janet.
So you've just said it can be pushed in the direction of Portishead in Bloom, but Portishead in Bloom have their own supplier.
Yeah,
so this would be an extra supply.
We'd need to make sure that we're not double planting or anything anywhere, obviously. But we could. There's many sites which we, from a Portishead in Bloom point of view, could be made. Sort of we could extend the coverage. They were kind enough last year to actually add to their order, so I could do the planters on Mendip Road as well. So there's plenty of places where more flowers could be used for sure. So we'll just make sure that they're not used to, and we'll get a plan in place before we say yes, not to make sure
there are
nothing's wasted.
250 available. Yeah.
Bob.
It just seems a bit ironic, obviously, Jonathan and Chris being here and about enticing insects, the perfect way of enticing insects. Whether Portishead in Blooms use it or they could use it down at the lake grounds in the park there. There's a multitude of things. I really want us to reply ASAP because obviously it does say a limit and first come, first serve. So we need to be first and we deal with it from there.
Okay.
So I can propose that. Janet second, and we are
Thank you.
all. Is that you, Jenny? Yep. Excellent. We are all good. Yes, of course we can. Yeah, no problem at all. Well, just rearrange the order next, just to cover for the beech tree in Havensfield, in Havens Lane, sorry. So we've got a report attached on this. So this is it's a bit of a tricky one, this, isn't it?
It is.
So
Yes.
let me go around. Got that, and I know, Steve, you've been doing some of this as well. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I can. I'm happy to report, Chair. Yeah,
and then we've got Peter to join us as well.
Yep. Well, Peter will be able to fill us in, but there is a tree up at Abbott's. Is it Abbott's Lee?
No.
What's the name of your hall?
Redcliffe Bay.
Redcliffe Bay Hall. Yes, it's close to the hall, and it's already shed a quite significant bough into the garden of one of our residents, and it's showing signs of rot. North Somerset's tree officer inspected, but only from the ground level, didn't carry out a detailed survey of the tree, but concluded that it was no immediate risk. Having said that, there's been an independent report commissioned by the local residents, which has shown that there is significant rot. So it looks like, for the safety of the hall, this tree might have to be reduced to a monolith. Now, that is quite an expensive work. I mean, the last time I commissioned that work myself, it was over £5,000 to get that done. We have a tree maintenance budget, so I suggest, contrary to what we've got here, I am now recommending that we do take that tree back to a pollarded state. So, but I'm sure the local resident can fill you in on the detail.
Peter, do you want to join us and give a bit of a background as well in terms of context? Thanks.
So just a bit of context around what Steve was saying as to why it's important to all of you. So this is a tree that sits between the public footpath, Havens Lane, and the Redcliffe Bay Hall car park. The piece of land it sits on, this is what makes it complicated, is not owned by anybody. It's an old ransom strip that's dropped between the cracks. So North Somerset aren't interested because it's not theirs. We only got interested when it landed on our property. And you probably need to be interested because if it fell, it would definitely land on the Redcliffe Bay Hall and its car park, which would be quite a mess to sort out.
And of course, it's a public access lane.
And it's a public footpath. And
what occurred to me is that because it's in unowned land, if it fell on us, it would have no insurance behind it. And the cost of repairing the hall would fall on us.
Which is exactly the situation we found ourselves in when it fell on us, yes. The other bit of context that may be useful is we've lived in Little Holt for a long time. In that time, 3 beech trees of the large number that were dotted around the area have come down unexpectedly, all for the same reason. They look fine on the outside, they're rotten inside. That's what's happened this time. North Somerset's tree officer did a ground level inspection of the outside of the carcass of the tree and said it looks fine. We commissioned an independent report by the guy who does a lot of work, I think, for you and for North Somerset. He looked at it and said, this is going to be fine. Then he did a full internal survey with the all the electrical tests and everything. And to his surprise and ours, came back and said, no, it isn't fine. So it's not if it falls, it's when it falls.
Yeah. I know some of the other councils have got more history in terms of looking into it as well. And I know our deputy clerk, our deputy clerk has been liaising with North Somerset for a number of months to try and get some sort of support in terms of getting it, on a list and actually reviewed. The response that we had from North Somerset was that they've got enough in their own backlog to be able to actually add it to their list, unfortunately. So far, we've got a blunt no in terms of support. But obviously with the additional commissioned report showing the actual internal damage, we do wonder whether there is anything, whether we do have anything, further that we would be able to at least push to them to find out whether they can support something, but time might not necessarily be on our side in terms of, any additional storms. I mean, we've weathered 3 or 4 quite substantial storms across the course of the last couple of months even. So I think we're probably getting to a point where we will have to do something to, from a health and safety point of view. I know, Mike, you've got your hand raised behind me.
I have, yes, thanks, Emma. Sadly, last year I came back from a weekend away and found that the big beech tree by St Barnabas Church, the old school building, had been felled, and it must have been at least 100 years old. It's a big loss to the street scene, but it did have rot inside it, which of course no one could see. But they didn't want to take the risk of children being around in the children's centre there and so on and so forth. So it was felled. It's not been replaced with anything yet. I'm trying to work on that one. Thank you.
Can I ask, if it's pollarded, will it come back from the base, or is that it?
The comments from both Glendale, who looked at it with Sharon and I some months ago, and then from the guy who did the survey for us, is that if you pollard it, you're just going to end up coming back in a few years' time and spending more money doing more work on it. So the lowest cost solution is to either remove it completely or reduce it to just a monolith, which doesn't regenerate and grow again.
Steve, yes.
Yes, the monolith, I've had recent experience. Not that long ago, I did this with an oak tree, and we took some advice on it, and we were recommended to monolith the tree because it then rots naturally and does provide quite a valuable habitat for wildlife. Believe it or not, as it rots. Yeah.
Yes. No. David, do you want to add?
I mean, it's a health risk, isn't it, to pedestrians and people potentially in the hall. I think if we take it, it needs to be taken down for those reasons. I think we should aim to replace it with a natural oak, beech or whatever. If we're going to take it down, I just wonder. And time is of the essence, both in terms of the damage to the tree and in terms of the season. I guess people don't want to take it down when it's in full leaf. But I wonder if we can split the costs with North Somerset. Is it worth asking that question?
I live just along the coast from Peter, and we've had 3 beech trees down in our woods in the last 3 or 4 years. They've all basically collapsed when they come into leaf in May on calm, sunny days due to the weight of the leaves. So I don't want to scare people, but that's the most likely time of year when they might go down. So it
needs to be done now.
Yeah.
And it has been 9 months already.
Yeah, Janet.
Looking at the report, it looks as if North Somerset won't play ball. Does that mean that we just have to take responsibility, or do we ask help from the residents around there as well? Or could we not do that?
No, so I mean that was certainly something that was offered. I say from yourself, Peter, and people are around that. So Roger, if you want to. Just in case you had something to add before Peter.
Nothing much. I just wanted to say it's got a tree preservation order on it.
It has,
so we can't do any work on it without North Somerset's permission anyway. So we'd have to go back to North Somerset. At that stage, I think the recommendation is it not to give them the report that's been done and say you need to do this urgently and see if we can get them over the line.
Yeah, that's where we were going with it because of the report in terms of a more accurate and thorough report in terms of where we are. But time is of the essence, so I think we probably need, when we finally get to the recommendation, I think we need to be able to do something and be time limited, or then take on board what we know. Sorry, Peter.
I don't think we should ask residents to pay. Do you? I don't think we should ask residents to contribute.
No, I didn't know what Peter was going
to. Just three pieces on that. So North Somerset have already told us in writing that they would look favourably on removing the TPO so that work could be done. They were prepared to do that. Second thing was that apparently it's not the case. If there's a safety risk, all the stuff to do with TPO is superseded by the fact that there's a safety risk. So you can move quickly to do something where it needs to be done. And the lane, the neighbours and ourselves look after the lane because it's unadopted. So in terms of planting and everything, we would be prepared to make some contribution to it.
I think that
there are other trees already regenerating there naturally, so there would be a natural replacement for the beech trees.
Yeah, I think in terms of funding, I think that would probably need to be a last resort, if you know what I mean. I don't think we would, as you said, I don't think it would be something that we would be minded to have to ask you to do. I think we need to provide the report, to North Somerset. We need to get some sort of urgency in terms of where we are. So, Roger.
Sorry, I just wanted to say there are lots and lots and lots of trees around Portishead on areas of land which used to belong to developers that have gone bust or just been left. And we've seen residents request before to do work on those. My only fear here is that we won't be opening the floodgates on this one. If we agree to do one, we then can't not agree to do everyone who turns up. And I am aware that there are a lot of trees that lots of people would like work done on. But we don't do it because we don't own the land.
Yeah, no, indeed. I think we need to be sort of cognizant of that. I think what we've got here potentially is a bit of a perfect storm. We've got something that we know is rotted from the inside. We've got something that's on unadopted land. It's a lane. We've got the health and safety risks. We've also got, as a hirer of the hall, a duty of care there as well. So I think this isn't something that might be overgrowing somebody's garden. I think we've got all of these other things in place and in play, which sort of, I think sort of, tip it towards us having to take the responsibility, in this nature of doing it. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that.
I just want to ask, is there any budget for things like this? Do we have a contingency for trees?
So,
dangerous?
Where we are at the moment, it would have to be found from at the time of year that we're in as well, sort of potential budgets that we haven't actually spent, and we know everything is probably nearing its end. We've got an element of money still left in the grant pot that hadn't been claimed come last December. That's only a small proportion of it, but it's something. But I think I think we should also be going back to North Somerset with, I guess at £4,500, that's possibly the cost price. If we were to go out to somebody within the Glendale contract, they might be able to do it at a lesser rate. And if we need to contribute to that, then so be it. But I think we need to go back to North Somerset and provide them with a report, and then see if we can get something urgently sorted. And if not, then we'll have to take it into our hands ourselves. I think, yeah. Okay.
Just ask another practical. When do beach come into?
That's what Paul said. So May, April, May. So we need to be looking at being able to do something within the next couple of weeks. Yeah. 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 So yeah, we're talking weeks really. So are you okay to summarise a recommendation from that, Steve? Yeah. Great. Okay. So yeah, I'll propose what I rambled through. If I can have a Mariam, yeah, and then if we're all in favour of that. Yeah, it's unanimous. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for all of the work that you've done over the last number of months as well, because I know it's been sort of really like treading through treacle, isn't it, really? But yeah, thank you for persisting and also for letting us know about the risk as well, because we wouldn't have known without you fetching that. So thank you. Okay, we are back to agenda item number 12, which is communication with residents. So we've got a report from Amy considering the options for council news in reporting in local print media. And one of the reasons which this has been brought back to light again is actually how we've been disseminating the information about the residents' drop-ins. And we've had North Somerset sort of favourably posting and taking that information into print for us, luckily at no cost to us at the moment. We've been asking the residents that have attended the drop-ins how they've heard about it as well, and the majority of people have actually said it's been in print media in essence. So it was timely that we look at what options that we do have to be able to actually get some consistency in terms of how we're communicating with our residents alongside the wider plan and how we're actually sort of talking to and engaging with everybody as well. So our report here from Amy, let me just go back up to it. Find myself on Free Flowers. Okay, I'm back to it. So yeah, it was probably 2 years ago now, I think, when we decided that we would pull the funding that we did have budgeted for the communication that we were doing through North Somerset Times. And at that point in time, it was hand delivered, obviously, everywhere throughout the town. And now it's a sort of a pickup. The distribution's obviously less, but it's still definitely a read communication, as it were. So I won't go through the full list here, but is there any pertinent points that anybody else wants to bring up from Amy's report? Yeah, go for it, David. Oh, and Paul, yeah.
I guess the points I wanted to make as a resident or talking to residents is what are we actually trying to achieve with this communication? Because there's news, which is obviously very, in your face today's news, which Amy's very good at getting that kind of stuff in the North Somerset Times. So I think we're probably looking at more sort of static information, but information about what the council does, how useful they are, a calendar list of the council meetings, a calendar list of the drop-ins. So all of the ways that the public can engage with us seems to be the most useful thing for this sort of communication. And therefore, I personally would go for the mail drop, because I think it reminds me of, what is it, Local Reach, or one of those things where you get the tradesman's sort of, and you just stick it on your whiteboard or whatever you've got at home, and then you can refer to it throughout the year. So if that's the sort of thing that we're looking to achieve, I personally think that the leaflet's better, because everyone will get one and they'll stick it on their notice board, and then they can keep looking at it. So that was my own 2 pence. But,
I guess, Graham, I'll just read this bit out and then I'm over to you. From Amy's proposal, it's the production of a newsletter to be included, and looking at what other towns, Clevedon and Nailsea are doing. They've got regular newsletters which are sort of 1 pages of the relevant sort of North Somerset Times or whatever. But it's publicising at any events, any big upcoming events, all of our standard calendar entries and things like that. Sorry, Mary.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that in the North Somerset Times, it costs around about 1,700, but you can't guarantee that everybody will see it. But the door-to-door drop that Paul was saying is about 1,600 odd, and then you can guarantee every resident has got one. Yeah. So I thought I would agree with Paul that would be the better option.
Yeah, it's coverage as well, isn't it? Sorry, Jenny, and then
I would agree with that as well, because I don't think, certainly my friends, I don't think many people read North Somerset Times. I also think the thing that the clerk has just put around the table, I wouldn't read that. That's the last thing. I would just flick straight over it. So I don't want anything that looks like that. Or so I again would support the mail drop.
Yeah. Janet Bower, David, and then Janet.
There is one point though. The number of people when you go around canvassing who say, I haven't received anything, and damn well they did, because you put it in there last week. So I'm not sure how effective a mail drop will be either, because I know that people take one look at things like that and put it straight in the bin, and that's a worry for that sort of money. So in a way, I preferred the option 1. And the other thing I wanted to add to that was that Enjoy Portishead, which is a magazine, sticks around for a damn sight longer than a newspaper. And I just think that once Paul's shaking his head, I think might be the very first time where you might actually get a split decision.
So I think
those are my thoughts anyway.
Just one thing to say, Janet. I think this doesn't mean that we're going to channel all of our communication in this way from a print media perspective. So we'll still use the opportunity of being able to, push to North Somerset Times for, free advertising if they take up our stories and run with those, and equally if Enjoy Portishead or anybody else wants to sort of run any of the things that we're doing as well. So I will go David and then we'll come to Roger.
Unusually, I agree with Janet. I think I prefer option 1. I think my sense is we do need something more than just a once-a-year calendar of events. I think things do change. Dates get put in diaries. Dates of carnivals, dates of the Christmas lights switch on, various bits of new initiatives. The Western Big Wood issue that's happening at the moment. I just sort of think just doing a drop once a year with just a list of times of council meetings, which are anyway put up on our town council notice boards around town, maybe just missing something. I noticed that our new MP has a regular slot in North Somerset Times. And Clevedon and the Nailsea town councils use North Somerset Times as a way of communicating with other people. So I guess they've thought about it and their experiences that it's getting to more people. The copies of the North Somerset Times around the leisure centre have always disappeared within 2 days of them being put there. So it's obviously the 6,000 copies get seen by a fair number of households in town. And of course, we're recommending a combination of newspapers and an annual drop to all households through the local Reach magazine. So I'd go for option one.
Roger first, and then we got Bob and then Janet.
Thank the locum clerk for distributing a page from the North Somerset Times. First time this year, in fact, in the last 12 months or more, that I've actually seen a page of the North Somerset Times. So, because they stopped distributing it, didn't they? Mike may remember many years ago, this council used to put a newsletter out in the North Somerset Times regularly and stopped doing it. North Somerset put out their North Somerset Life magazine. They're stopping doing that as well. The print media is not distributed any longer. It's a pickup, isn't it? So there's no longer the coverage from the heady days of when we had the North Somerset Times and the Mercury covering the area, and occasionally the Evening Post as well. And I think Paul put his finger on it when he said, "What are we doing it for? What outcome do we want?" Because if we look at the outcome that we want, then it should guide us to which of the two recommendations would be the ones that we would go with. And I thought that the outcome we want is to enable a message to get to as many people as possible, in which case it's option two. Because that's the only one that gets to absolutely everybody. Whether or not it's read, I take your point, Janet. Whether or not it's read is another thing. Same with the ones in the paper. 6,000 papers get distributed. Do 6,000 people read that page? Probably not. They'll read the bits they want to from it. If we distribute to every house in the area, will a load of them throw it in the bin? Yes, they will. They won't even look at it. They'll throw it in the bin. But if we want to get communication out to as wide an audience as possible, that's the only one that actually guarantees it. So I would go for option two. That's what I said in a long-winded way.
When I talk to little old ladies, about the same age as me, they say that social media is not for them, and they do read the North Somerset Times. And clearly we're not aiming at those who can use social media all the time. We're aiming at the people who, don't use social media, and people at Tea and Tech, if they said that's where they get the information from, we need to take that on board.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we don't have to put something out that looks like that. We could have something much better than that. We could make it eye-catching, and we could, in those circumstances, we could make it eye-catching. And we can actually, because we're putting it out twice a year on that, and maybe another time in local Reach, which I do look at every week, every month that it comes in, personally, I think if we made it eye-catching enough, people would read it.
Yeah. Right, thanks, Janet. Bob?
I'm glad you went first, Janet. You're quite right. There is a lot of older people in this town. I think we could base it on a 20-year generation gap. So in other words, it's going to be at least another 20 years before most people should know how to use social media, computers, mobile phones, digital screens that are attached to their head by then, I should think. But a lot of people know about my issue about advertising on bus stops. That's one option. Another option could be actually putting some sort of stand next to the North Somerset Times magazine in the supermarket. That's another option that you could look at. I do quite agree with Paul, about producing a door drop leaflet that can redirect you to points of social media views that can drop you to obviously council meetings, such forth. It's basic information that we need to get out there. But as I said, we're not looking outside the norm. And I think there's other options out there that we can. I mean, I'm more than happy to go down to Sainsbury's and put a leaflet in every single North Somerset Times. It will probably take me 25 minutes, but then that's 400 papers going out with our leaflets inside it.
Jenny?
I would really like far more time to think about this properly, and we should have a marketing strategy. I know Amy's put this, together, which is great, but actually we should have a whole range of different channels, and we do have different channels, but I don't want to sort of take this in isolation. And I'd really like some evidence for who reads what. We need one strategy for people that aren't IT techie and another for, so I feel uncomfortable making a decision now when I don't think I've got the full picture.
We have got a lot of that information from when we were doing the kickoff for the resident engagement sessions, which ended up being a drop-in, if that made sense. So we have got a lot of that information. Amy's got some of the information that backs up the take-up of the North Somerset Times and everything else as well. But I think it's important to note that this is not making a decision on an individual strategy. This is adding to because we have no budget set aside for any print media anymore whatsoever. This is really just making a decision on what we can do to actually engage with the our residents that aren't on social media, that print media, from the feedback that we've had from the residents that are coming to the drop-in centre, is their most important means of understanding what it is that we're doing as a council. So this is definitely not all of our eggs are going in this one basket. This is about signing off some money to set aside for a budget that currently we don't have, because as a council we decided to take away that North Somerset spend when it stopped being distributed to every household. So I think there's certainly more information that we would need, but at the same time we need that sorted to put it into the budget to move forward for the next.
So what you're actually saying is this is a strategy for people that probably aren't on social media and aren't IT, which is a very, very different message to one that's trying to meet the needs of the whole population.
It's trying to get everything in harmony, really, in terms of what it is that we're doing. And as I said, there's we're not going to take away from the social media. We're not going to take away from the website. We're not going to take away from providing North Somerset with stories that they will lead with, and that's completely free of charge. And most of all of our resident drop-ins have been taken. They've taken that onto their website as well, so we've got more reach that we're from those kind of stories too. So David, and then Paul,
and me,
and Janet saying.
I was just going to agree with you. I mean, I think it's about using multiple sources to get to people. Not everyone uses the same source, and not everyone who's on Facebook is going to follow Portishead Town Council on Facebook. One thing that does get through to people potentially is stuff that goes through the letterbox, but it's a small proportion of. It's another bit of the cake.
Another bit of the jigsaw, really. Janet, then Paul, and then Roger.
I think that option one includes the Local Reach magazine going out once, a one-off in the Local Reach magazine. That goes through every door, and we could put our leaflet in with that, and that's included then. Paul's wish of going out once a year with a leaflet could be included in the Local Reach.
There are monthly and quarterly options. I know we've got it's totaled in here in terms of annual costs, but there are options of being able to do this quarterly and half yearly. Paul, do you want to?
Pick up on what Jenny says. I think the conversation is kind of going around in circles because everyone's got a different outcome in mind, and we haven't got the strategy on the table. So personally, I would suggest this was deferred, and that we ask Amy to do a short presentation to the councillors on the marketing and communication strategy for the next 12 months. And we have another item which says we're going to invest this much in social media, this much in paper, and we know exactly which audiences we're targeting with which messages over the 12 months, and then we could approve that all in one go. That would be my suggestion. But
and as I said, Amy's got a communication strategy document, which we probably just need to top and tail to include that sort of the ratios or whatever that we want. But so I can speak to Amy tomorrow on that. Steve, that's fine. Okay, so we'll put that on ice for the moment then, and then. Sorry, Roger, I didn't come back to you, did I?
Sorry. You missed me out, Chair.
Sorry.
Yeah, point of order. I've been missed. I was going to actually put another option out there, which was to say, why don't we agree a budget of say £2,000 for communications for hard to reach people? Because I think that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? We're talking about people who are traditionally more difficult to reach.
Yeah, or digitally excluded, or all of those other avenues.
It's hard to reach. Sort of, it encompasses everyone who's more difficult to get hold of. So maybe we could just agree a figure for that, or we could push it all off till next time. But I just thought I'd put that out there as well.
No, it's a practical solution in terms of being able to do something. And then if there's any initiatives that we've got, which I think a number of them Amy's mentioned that are ready to roll. So we could probably do that. We have collectively all happy to So if we and all of that. Mostly all of the options fetch us underneath that. I think so. Even if it's the local reach. So are we okay to update the recommendation then, Steve? So so if Roger propose that, I could second that. And then one abstention.
Is this the first time?
No. Okay, thank you everybody for that. So naturally we come around to item number 14, which is communication. So it's just to agree the items of sort of items of note, really, I guess, that we can pass to Amy for the next one.
Toilets. Swift boxes.
Yep.
And tea and tech. The fact that it should be continued.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I like 3. It's a good number. Is that all okay? Fantastic. Okay, item number 15 is the date of the next meeting then. So the date of the next ordinary town council meeting is Wednesday, the 12th of March at 7 p.m. And we will close the meeting.
When's the Community Matters meeting?
The next one is on the 26th of March.
Thank you.
I just thought we'd switched it around a bit, but no, but there is a meeting.
There is.
Council on the 12th, but the next Community Matters is on the 26th of March. Okay, so I'll now close the meeting at 9:03. No worries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.